And now it's time for Corner Table, our exclusive theater review segment. It features legendary critic John Simon and Justin Brown. Simon, he wrote for New York Magazine for more than 35 years. He's also been featured in the New York Times, Washington Post, among many others. Justin, he's an actor and director who also reviews shows. Tonight, they're looking at M. Butterfly, starring Clive Owen. It's a story of intrigue that is based on a true story.
Hey, Corner Table friends, and hello, John.
Hi.
How are you?
Fine.
Today, we're talking about the ever-fabulous M. Butterfly by David Henry Hwang, playing at the Court Theater. And the saddest thing about this to me is that it's closing very, very, very soon. So, John, I want to open the floor to you first because you saw the original production back in the 80s. Can you give me a little bit of feedback in terms of a comparative narrative between the two?
Well, I think the original production had several things going for it. First of all, it was at a time when it was sensational. In our time, it's no longer sensational. And this one needed every help it could get. In the second place, it was not only sensational, but it was also very human because it had some great performances in it. B.D. Wong as the Chinese actor, actress, whatever you want to call him, gave a great performance and well-deserved award, a Tony Award for it. But the leading man was pretty good too. What's his name?
John Lithgow.
John Lithgow. Why do I keep forgetting Lithgow? John Lithgow was very good because he suggested a somewhat backward, unsure of himself, dubious kind of person, whereas Clive Owen, for my money, is a little too masculine, too sure of himself, too square, in the good sense of square, and somehow less believable.
What I think is so important about this show is at a time where we're dealing with phrases like toxic masculinity, for example, what I think David Henry Hwang has done so well is creating a piece that challenges our concepts of gender, of sexuality, of our ability to be so easily manipulated into either coercion, which happens in this show as well. And it's political in a way that harkens back to something that's no longer contemporary, but still feels very, very real. What I think the takeaway with this production, though, is Julie Taymor. What's amazing about her, because there are so few directors who, this day and age, because I only really think of like Richard Foreman, for example, who deal so heavily with every single aspect of their production. And something that I loved was the attention to detail, to the way that actors move through space. Jin Ha, who's playing the lead in this alongside Clive Owen, there was this gentle attention to the way that he moved through space, to the way he interacted with inanimate objects. And there was a quietness in the space that reminds me of bunraku and puppetry in a way that somebody like Julie Taymor would be able to evoke in her creative work. The failing thing about this is something that I don't think has anything to do with this production and everything to do with the space, the audience, and the commercial nature of Broadway. I think if this was playing in a smaller theater off Broadway, it would be doing wonderfully and it probably wouldn't be closing early. But unfortunately, things about it aesthetically feel cheap. And I think that we in the audience, in terms of a commercial circuit, a lot of these people are very uncomfortable and you can hear them. There's also nudity in this show, which I don't think a lot of people are warned about beforehand. And unless you're familiar with the show, you wouldn't know that. So when I went to go see it, I don't know if you noticed this when you saw it, but the reveal in the moment of nudity, there was laughter in the audience. Because if you're familiar with M. Butterfly, you know that it's a takeaway on the opera, which is basically a power play between two men. An American or a foreigner falls in love with a Oriental beauty, and basically becomes seduced and confused, and you discover that in traditional Peking opera, female roles are played by men. So this role that Jin Ha is playing, and originally done by B.D. Wong beautifully, was in fact a man. So that moment of nudity is received with laughter. Did you have that reaction?
I can't remember exactly. I'm not even sure that there was that much nudity in the original production. There may not have been. But the whole problem with this show is that it is about something that really happened. But the trouble is that reality is sometimes stranger than fiction.
Yes.
And this reality is a lot stranger than any fiction. And as such, it had its sales possibility, but it also has its ultimate loss of interest over the passage of time. So it depended too much on a thing of its moment and of its place and of its particular characters, and it did not really transition very smoothly into us, into our time.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's the problem.
Yeah, again, I think that for me, I don't think that the trouble is in the show or the production, but rather I think the trouble is in the period that we're in, contemporary. And we are dealing with things differently, and we're being a lot more open about them. And I think, John, you're 100% correct. When something is sensational and it is shocking to people, it elicits a certain response. So ultimately, I don't even know if our viewers are going to get a chance to see this wonderful production. But if you did, I'm proud of you. I'm glad you saw it. I think it was absolutely worth seeing this season. It was beautifully executed by the people on stage. And I hope to see more work that is important like this.
I think you're being a little too kind.
No, I really liked it. And I think it was really important this season. So thank you, everybody.
Hey, coming up next, we'll take a look at some local headlines, so please stay with us.